And lastly, not leastly, our friend Chris Sims is back tonight. And, Chris has been here many times before, and has always been an exciting time with whatever, always something insightful and interesting. So looking forward to his session tonight. Anything else? I think, Chris, you ready to take over? All right.
Absolutely.
Let me stop sharing.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Good to see you all. Yeah. At least those of you I can see. Oh, I can see more of you now. Super cool. A lot of familiar faces. Dig it, dig it, dig it. So how many of you have ever worked with a team that wasn't such a great team? They were struggling. Yeah. How many of you have ever encountered teams and organizations that were engaged in what you would call anti-patterns? Wow. How many of you have ever been in conversations with other Agile enthusiasts, Agile coaches, Agilistas, and you're kind of just like talking about those anti-patterns and, oh, the managers in this organization, I can't believe it. How many of us have ever had those kind of like, yeah. It has its place, right? If we can recognize what doesn't work, that's a first step in making it better. Tonight, we're going to flip that on its ear. Tonight, we are going to be envisioning the best Scrum team, the most amazing Scrum team. It's Team Alpha. They are freaking amazing. They are this like high-performing, self-managing Scrum team. They really use Scrum effectively. They are, they just do all the stuff right. The organization that they exist in, like, does a really good job of kind of supporting teams and creating an environment where teams can thrive and build great products. And so tonight we are going to like dive into that, right? Like let's dive into utopia. Because if we can like really kind of bring some focus to like, what does that look like? What would that look like? A really healthy organization and a really healthy team, like, oh, right? But it would be too easy if we just did the like, well, let's do the whole rainbows and unicorns thing, right? Because we could make that list, right? Oh, the team members are honest and hardworking, and gosh darn it, they're good looking too, right? You can make this big long list of like great attributes. But it gets real when something goes wrong. Right? I was thinking about this, like, okay, bad teams, they just do it poorly all the time. Good teams, they do it pretty well, pretty often. But great teams are the ones that shine when things are difficult. Right? I think that's how you really know, hey, wow, this really is a great team. Right? It's not when things are easy, not when things are going smooth, not when we're doing Scrum by the book and everything's just shiny, gosh darn it. Yeah.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just talking.
Okay, got it.
I'm just talking. Yeah. So tonight we're going to be diving into how does a really great team react when something goes sideways. And so I've dropped you into 4 breakout rooms. So there's going to be team 1, Lindy. You're going to be working with a problem with Lindy. Team 2, tech debt. You're going to be dealing with a team that has some tech debt issues to address. Team 3, bad forecast. You're going to be working with a team that has a bad forecast they have to deal with. And then team 4, Lindy 2. You're going to also be working on the thing with Lindy, but you're going to get to show up team 1, right? They're going to do some work with that scenario, but then you're going to do it even better. So we're in a little competition between these two teams to see who deals with this. So let me do a bit of screen sharing and just kind of walk us through what's going to happen. So each of the teams, one of the team members has been given a copy of the worksheet your team is going to be working with. And it looks something like this. So this is the, happens to be the worksheet for Team 1 Lindy. And when you get into your breakout room, whoever is the person who has access to that worksheet right now, I encourage you to share it with the rest of the team. And a really good way to share it is go up to the File menu and choose Share. You can also get here by clicking the big Share button. And then just come down here and click Copy Link. And then once you've copied that link, you can drop it into the chat when you're in the breakout room. And that way, everybody who's in that breakout room with you will then be able to click on that link, and you'll all have read-write access to that document. If you want, you may also find it useful to share your screen when you're in the breakout room. So that could be useful too. But the idea is you're gonna share access to the document. There's a little description up here about Team Alpha. You'll probably want to read that. Then there's a scenario. Each team has a different scenario. What's going on? What trouble is that team facing? And then the rest of the worksheet is going to guide you through doing some analysis and kind of application of good practices. So first, there's a set of questions about transparency, right? You're going to you're going to talk with your teammates. What are the things that you believe that team does to promote openness and transparency? And you're going to describe it here. You're going to list it out as a team. Then how does that transparency, how is that going to help them dealing with this current challenge? Same thing with inspection, right? What do they do to frequently inspect? Ooh, how do those practices help them in their current crisis? And then finally, adaptation, right? Based on everything you described above, how do you believe this high-performing team is going to adapt to this crisis? And so as a team, you're going to come up with your, hey, here's what a super high-performing team alpha is going to do when they're placed in this tough situation. And then ultimately, when we all come back, each team's going to give us a short presentation, right? You may want to share your answers to the questions. And basically tell us, what did you come up with? What do you think those practices are that a high-performing Scrum team would already have in place? And how would they leverage those practices to overcome the challenge? And you'll probably recognize those 3 areas, right? Transparency, inspection, adaptation. They're said to be like the 3 pillars of empirical process control, right? That Scrum is based on. So questions. Oh, and when I send you off to your breakout room, you're going to get 20 minutes on the countdown timer. So when you're in the breakout room, if you look in the upper right, there'll be a little countdown timer letting you know how much time is left in your breakout session. And then there's going to be a little pop-up after the main timer gets to 0. And you're going to get a 2-minute, grace period at the end to finish things up before we all meet back here in the main room. When that little pop-up shows up, there's 3 things you can do with it. First thing you could do is just drag it off to the side, and you'll be able to see the countdown happening, and you continue to interact with your teammates. The second thing you could choose to do with it is close it by clicking the little X in the upper corner of the dialog. The pop-up will go away, and at the end of time, you'll just be magically transported back here to the main Zoom. The third thing you could do is you could click the one and only button that appears on the dialog. That will exit you from the breakout room, and then you can't go back. So, if you click the one and only button on that pop-up, just know that means you're leaving your breakout room, and you're going to be back here in the main room. All right, questions before I send you off to have a look at your case studies. Wave your hands or do the little raise hand on Zoom, or if you got a question. Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, welcome back. Right now, how many people are feeling time boxes are hard? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from each of the teams, and your team's going to get, I'm going to set up a timer. Sadly, I haven't figured out how to do this in a way that you can see it, but it's not disruptive. So I'm going to be running a 5-minute timer, and your team's going to have about 5 minutes to share what they came up with. We'll be real interested to hear, what sorts of transparency techniques you think your team Alpha was using, how they were inspecting, and ultimately how did they adapt to the scenario. And I'll tell you what, I'll read each scenario, so that won't be on the clock, and then we'll hear your team's response. So we're going to start with team 1, who's looking at Lindy. Team 4 was also looking at Lindy, so we might hear from we'll hear from team 4 fourth. Otherwise, my little brain won't be able to keep things straight. So here's the scenario. Scenario is called Lindy is leaving. Our company, Alpha Learning Labs, is an agile training and consulting firm. Team Alpha uses Scrum to run every aspect of the business. Christine is a trainer, coach, and consultant. When she isn't working directly with clients, she develops curriculum and helps out with other aspects of the company's operation. Katie is also a trainer, consultant, and curriculum creator. She occasionally pitches in with sales. Bob is the expert for all back office operations stuff: payroll, purchasing, billing, accounting, shipping, and receiving. Lindy is the primary sales and marketing person. She manages customer relationships, marketing, and advertising. She also helps Bob with operations and occasionally helps out in the classroom. Lindy is leaving to pursue a lifelong dream to lead a nonprofit organization that she's been involved with for some time. She is given 1 month's notice of her plan to leave. So team number 1, take it away. You got 5 minutes to tell us about your analysis of Team Alpha and the processes you think they have in place, and ultimately how are they going to adapt. Don't forget to unmute before you start talking.
I guess team number 1, it's us, right?
If you were working on Lindy,
yes,
then yes. Yep, then it is your team. Yes.
Okay.
Sasha.
Okay. We did not choose a speaker, so anybody wants to step up?
I'm noticing you're speaking.
No good deeds come unpunished. So when we started talking about transparency, we first concentrated on processes and tools. We're talking about making our work visible through the storyboard, following the framework, and religiously participating in Scrum events, establishing tools like Salesforce, keeping record of all the materials, information about the customers. But then we realized that we have to observe Agile Manifesto, Agile values, and concentrate not on processes and tools, but on people and collaboration, because a house of Scrum is standing on psychological safety. You could consider this to be a foundation for House of Scrum. And establishing psychological safety would be really helpful so that people could talk openly about their challenges, what wakes them up in the middle of the night, and helping each other, using each other's brainstorming bodies, so that within the team we have a collective ownership of existing process. When it comes to the way how it helps to be prepared, and because of openness, Lindy gave us a warning, not in 2 weeks as usually, but in a month. That is an indication of respecting the team and transparency. This way we have more time to get prepared. Okay, in terms of, so that's transparency. Now, when it comes to inspection, we want to concentrate not on output, but outcome. We want to establish meaningful metrics for that. We would probably run surveys with our customers, with our clients, and we also want to be transparent with our stakeholders internal, because we are talking about two types of stakeholders. External stakeholders are our clients, internal stakeholders are management of our own company. So we are collaborating with them, we are transparent with them, we are asking for what is their desired outcome.
2.5 minutes left.
And how this inspection, inspection helps them in dealing with the current challenge. So as soon as the team learns about the situation, a team might have multiple plans. We don't know, for example, if there is a replacement coming, if this replacement is going to overlap with Lindy or not. So, and based on this, we could have a plan when we only, if there is a big overlap, so we don't have to be worried about transferring the professional knowledge. The team will concentrate it on welcoming a new person to the team, going through this all stages of forming, storming, norming, performing. If there is no overlap, then the team would have to be prepared to take as much knowledge from Lindy as possible, or maybe even have a dry run when they step into Lindy's shoes and start acting as Lindy while she is still around, so that she could observe and give them some feedback and learn. So make an experiment and learn from this experiment.
It almost sounds like mob programming.
Right, exactly. And how do you believe this team will adapt to the current challenge? Describe how they should apply a countermeasure to reduce the impact of the challenge. So, as I said, we could have a plan, we could run some experiments, we could ask a lot of questions, and presumably the team will stand up for the challenge all together, helping each other and owning this challenge collectively. Team, please help me out if there is anything missing.
Hey, nicely done, team number one. Team number one, rock on, rock on. And wait for it, wait for it. Here comes the end of your time box. Here it comes, here it comes. There it is. All right, team two, stepping up to the plate. So I will start out by reading team two's scenario. So team two scenario is dealing with technical debt. A vendor who makes a code library that our product depends on is going out of business. Our company acquired the rights to the source code for that library so that we can continue to build and maintain it ourselves. Everyone is pleased since the library was a bit buggy and the vendor was slow to implement fixes and enhancements. We already have important new features on the roadmap, which will be enabled by enhancements we plan to make to the library code. Team Alpha has begun working in the library code, and it's worse than we expected. The code appears to have been developed by a variety of contractors who weren't working together, didn't follow any coding standards, and none of it has automated tests. Our team knew it would be scary to take over someone else's code base, but they really weren't ready for this level of technical debt. Sales and marketing is looking for guidance regarding the availability of the important new features. So team number 2, interested to hear what sorts of transparency, high visibility practices you think Team Alpha has in place in this case. What ways do they constantly inspect their work, and how are they going to adapt to this newly discovered technical debt? So Team Alpha, I'm sorry, Team 2, you've got the floor.
Yeah, well, we definitely are Team Alpha, and we are also Team 2. Team 2 included Ween Win, MC Moore, Sue Campbell, and Iggy T, and myself. And we up front agreed that we had all encountered this problem. However, Ween Win said, no, I had this one exactly some time ago. And MC Moore said, and I got it now. So it was a fun working group, and our working group recognized that breaking it down into transparency, inspection, and adaption was silly. We had a problem, and we were going to attack it. So we attacked it by in a whole bunch of ways, including starting with documenting the tech debt into the product backlog. Because one of the things that we recognized is that we on the engineering side tend to be really bad about actually documenting technical debt. We tend to walk around with it in our heads and say, oh, we got so much technical debt. But we don't actually document our technical debt so that our business counterparts can see and experience the fear that we experience as we look at it. Secondly, we're going to do a ton of spikes and exploratory programming, and we're going to build throwaway prototypes, and we're going to do things like commenting out code and seeing what happens. Because we've got one file that all by itself has 10,000 lines of code in that file. And so we want to know what's going on in this code. So we're going to do a bunch of that, and we're going to begin writing some automated tests around existing code when we understand that code and we realize that there are tests to be written. We're going to partner with our business stakeholders because they're skeptical about technical debt. All business stakeholders have now heard the sob story about technical debt, and they don't believe it. So we're going to partner with them, and by having documented it, we're going to help them to understand, in particular, the tech debt that's standing in the way of the very features they're asking for. So they're asking for stuff that we add stuff into very brittle and broken code, and we need to show them the steps in order to get to their features, the steps we need to take, the tech debt that we have to pay down. We're going to at least pair, if not mob, program against our tech debt because it's really the only way to tackle it. It's the way that we give visibility to our entire team of our entire code base. In particular, mob programming. We are going to work in small stories and make small bets to flush out stability, and we're going to demo to. And so, at the point at which we've got some code refactored, refactoring doesn't result in a change in the functionality. It results in a change to the stability. And so the demoing is not so much to our business partners because there's no change from their standpoint, but the demoing and showing progress is to our other team members. And so we're doing a lot of demoing to our other team members. Now, MC, Sue, Iggy, what did I miss?
I think you got it all.
I note down in your adaptation section of your worksheet there is one statement down there that is
yeah, we're gonna build new code. We're gonna build new code with TDD.
All right.
So, I was talking about building, about our team wants to build tests around code. We for sure want to build tests around new code. So great. Thanks for catching that, Chris.
Nice. Nice. Well done. Nicely done, team 2. Sounds like that team isn't so afraid of the tech debt. They're ready to roll up their sleeves and dive into it. All right, team 3. So your scenario was called the bad focus. So here we go. Here's the scenario. Team Alpha has been in stealth mode, developing the company's next blockbuster video game. The company is planning to announce the new game with a splashy TV ad during the Super Bowl 3 months from now. The ad is paid for and ready to go. The team's forecast, made using their velocity, said that they should be able to deliver the game with a couple of weeks to spare. This sprint, the team has made a troubling discovery. There's a bug in a third-party software library that the game depends on. Ooh, there's a pattern here. The bug is making certain parts of the game slow and unstable. Occasionally, the game crashes and the player loses all of their unsaved progress. The vendor says they will have a fix available in 6 months. The team could implement the functionality themselves and eliminate the dependency on the third-party library. They believe doing this would take them 2 to 4 months, in addition to the work they already have. Either of these options would push the first release of the game well past Super Bowl Sunday. The stakeholders are currently unaware of the issue, and sprint review is coming up tomorrow. Dum, 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 dum. All right, team 3. How is our team Alpha going to handle
You really set up the stakes there with the whole Super Bowl and everything. Beyonce is going to be upset. It's going to be a mess. Okay, well, just taking it in order here, transparency. Because they're doing the right stuff, they're going to notice this and they're going to broadcast it far and wide and be honest about the issue, right? So sort of early detection, right? Their sprint reviews are attended by their stakeholders, so there aren't really surprises building up. So the day this pops up, the day the stakeholders become aware and can hopefully help with it. And yeah, because they've got psychological safety, because they're a high performing team. They're honest about the problem. They don't sugarcoat it. They're really clear about how big a deal this is. This is a game changer, so to speak. And they post their status publicly, on the shared electronic team board, information radiator. The transparency helps them by making sure they have the right people in the room. Perhaps there's someone has a magic bullet that the team doesn't know about, or who knows. And by not concealing it and pretending things are okay, they avoid sort of implicitly overpromising that things are okay, as a way of avoiding what could be a difficult conversation. Inspection. They review their work frequently, and they're reviewing the right things. They're doing it in the right frame of mind, not superficially. Retrospectives are there. Their testing would surface this issue again kind of early on. So I'm not a programmer, so I'm kind of faking here, but one person on our team mentioned that most likely what would really happen is the team would trust the third-party library and would spend a lot of time critiquing their own code base. But getting it out there and getting a lot of eyes on it might help trigger a wider inspection that could again unveil the deeper problem sooner. Yeah, this should show up in daily stand-ups, right? Someone should have early on announced this as an impediment, as something slowing them down. And that again might have helped get the earliest possible awareness of this issue. Adaptation. They're going to have to replan, obviously. And, you know, one move may be to just redirect all efforts to solve this, reprioritize the work. You know, maybe there's parts of the game that that aren't as important for that initial release that can get reprioritized. There might just be no option but to postpone the release. It just may not be done by Super Bowl. That might just be the truth. Maybe this company has another team, and that team could get assigned, could have their assignment switched to jump onto this library, develop this library while Team Alpha is continuing with their work, right? So that they're not trying to split their attention. That would be better than, you know, adding a whole bunch of people to this team in a vain effort to try to make it be able to do more faster. Yeah, that's what we got.
Yay, team number 3, rock on, rock on. So basically what I'm hearing from team number 3 here is your team Alpha is really focusing on getting the word out, being open, being honest, and then dealing with it from there, right? Examining the options that are available, trying to pick the best of perhaps a group of quote unquote bad options, right? We don't like any of them, but which is the best one? I like it. Maybe
problems aren't like steaks. They don't age well. You want to get them out there as fast as you can.
Yeah. Maybe it's actually going to be easier to like rewrite the Super Bowl ad a little bit. Instead of available now, it could be like pre-order now. Who knows? Nicely done. Nicely done. All right. And we've got one team left, team number 4. They were also taking a swing at Lindy is Leaving. So this was an agile team that instead of doing software, they were an agile training and consulting firm. Wonder where I got the idea for this one. And they're losing their salesperson. So, but they use Scrum to run the whole company. So team number 4, walk us through your analysis. What was your take on this situation? What is this team already doing to create a good transparency? How are they already inspecting well? And then, you know, how are they going to adapt? So team number 4, you got the floor.
So I think I got voluntold to do this. Interestingly enough, this just recently happened to me on a team of 5 people. And that had been together for 4.5 years. And that's how I approached this when I was thinking through this. So my guess is if you have a really high performing team that's very close, Lindsay's number 1 goal leaving the team is she's going to know that they're going to be heartbroken when she leaves. And her number 1 goal is going to be to make certain that the team is successful after her departure. And I think that's true if you're really on a high performing team and you really believe in the team. And at least in my situation, the person who was leaving actually informed the team of their departure. It didn't come from a manager, it came from the team member. And so we would think that Lindy would tell the team probably after a stand-up. Of course, she'd have to probably get okay for the larger organization, but she'd probably want to tell the team directly as opposed to have them find out. And they'll probably be heartbroken, concerned, and wondering how are things going to work once this team is now broken up. Probably Lindy would want to make all of her current and even future work that she was envisioning that she might have to do down the line, you know, that maybe she'd be talking to the PO about things that we need to add, visible to the team. And assess some of the, I don't know if the right word is priority, but the urgency of some of this work, because she knows she's going to be there for another month. And she's, again, her goal will be to make certain that the team she'll work hard for the team because these are her colleagues, and she'll help the team assess what she should work on and how she can help do a transition with the team. In terms of how will the transparency help them in dealing with the current challenges, we talked about, I don't even know if this makes sense. We think that having this transparency, the team will be in position to successfully deal with the transition. The team will identify how to divvy up her various duties and work. So, some of them will flow naturally. We're not assuming that there'll be a new person joining immediately. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have to wait for a while to identify the right person on the team. We figured that the team would shadow Lindy as appropriate to enable proper knowledge transfer. And the team will work with Lindy to figure out how to effectively transfer that knowledge. In terms of the inspection question, we talked about, having visibility now that this event has occurred and the team is aware, knowing where we are each and every day and how that knowledge transfer is proceeding, being able to prioritize that. I actually think at this point, Scrum doesn't matter. You're in a 4-week race to get things wrapped up before she leaves. And actually, I don't even think the product owner matters at this point. It's up to the team to figure out how do we get what we need to be in a position to be successful once Lindy is gone. Frequently knowing how Lindy's remaining tasks are progressing. Ideally, a replacement would be identified and the team can begin transfer to that replacement, a transition, but I think that's more ideally. And then we agreed that the team would use an Agile board to make visible this 4-week plan that they need to get through related to her transition. And then we talked about how would inspection help them in dealing with their current challenge. At least in my situation, when the team was together for 4 years and one person left, probably everyone wondered, oh shoot, should I leave too? Is this an exit time? And so I think having them work together and figure out that transition plan as a team will calm some of the nerves. And also having everything visible will enable the team to provide an assessment to the management and PO of the impact of Lindsay being gone once that event happens, both for near-term promises and anything going forward. And then under the adaptation section, we talked about the need to ensure cross-training, ensuring team members shadow one another as to eliminate future single points of failure. Did I miss anything, guys? The rest of my team isn't talking, but we've only been together for 30 minutes.
Yay, team number 4. Nice analysis of Lindy is leaving. Nicely done. Nicely done. So at this point, I'd like to open it up and maybe just like raise your hand either with the hand raising icon thing in Zoom or just by waving your hands and I'll see you. What did you notice as you were trying to envision how a really high-performing team would deal with a really difficult challenge? What did you notice as your group was working on this? What kind of conversations were you having? What sort of thoughts came up? MC, what you got? I know it's the search for the mute button.
Exactly. One of the things I was going to say is I found that everyone had experience and everyone brought something to the table, and it was a sharing of ideas. There was no one person that led the whole thing and everyone else kind of followed along. It really was collaborative in the course of talking through the answers to the different questions.
Nice, cool observation. Thank you. What did other people notice? What stood out? Was there a particular comment or conversation or the way things flowed? Just, yeah, what did you notice? Ron, what you got?
Yeah. So having been on the team with MC, it not only was that true, but it, you know, what we've got here in the room, what we had in our team, and I imagine probably across the room, are a bunch of people committed to best teams, and so we've got a bunch of people committed to best teams talking about being in a best team, and it's really fun.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of a different feel than like when I started out my talk, right? Talking about like, oh, all the anti-patterns and all the, yeah. And Paula, was that a yay or was that a hand up?
It's a hand up.
All right, you
I
got
think-
the floor.
What was interesting in our group is that we had two non-techie people in the group and that don't work with software development. So coming up with ideas that are, what is transparency? What is inspection that can be across multiple things, not just technical and coding and software development. So these things spread, go across multiple fields and organizations and things. And so it really was, we were having the conversation less technical, maybe.
Nice. Nice. I like that. What else? Other observations? I have an observation as like the person who designed the exercise. Most of you all use the worksheets very differently than I expected you to. And it's kind of interesting because ultimately I think all four groups kind of came to describe a way that a high-performing team would address that situation. And so the fact that the way you chose to use the tools was differently than perhaps I thought you might makes me smile. And I think it's cool that like you had the conversations and ultimately you came up with some really, I think, real world and good solutions is kind of cool. And yeah, so it's just, I'm observing that. Like, oh, look at that. They use the worksheets differently than I expected. All right, last call on observations or comments. Going once. Sold. So here's a question. An exercise like this where you have an impediment scenario and you analyze it from the point of view of a really super high performing team and what would they do? How might you use this? In your world, how might you use an exercise like this?
Maybe to answer in two parts. One observation I have is it feels kind of good to imagine things going right. There's like, I want to bring the hangover of this with me, right? but I think there's maybe something to that. Like, if you're in the abstract of a hypothetical, maybe we give ourselves license to imagine the best of each other occurring, and maybe that makes it easier to sort of enact that in real life when that happens.
Ooh, nice. I like that.
I think in kind of riffing off of Ron and Todd, a lot of times, and you were talking a lot about the A word, right? Anti-patterns. And a lot of Agilists, we tend to focus on the negative. That's our neurobiology. We've overly focused. And I find that there's not an emphasis, like a lot of people don't know what good looks like. And a lot of people won't experience what good like unless you happen to luck into it, right? But I think this is a way to a nice way to do like a what if, how might this occur? And kind of like in a way, it's almost like a what's that term? Like having a vision, like having a dream of what an ideal is and what to put yourself in that role. How might it come together? I think if I were ever in a situation where I was like running a dojo, running through them and just sort of like, okay, before you go and just go and attack your problem that you always like, solving, it's sort of like, let's just do a little bit of role playing as a team. In this tip, let's kind of openly kind of brainstorm as to what could be about some sort of random problem that somebody might give us about how we might practice that. And then once we've practiced that mindset of what an ideal looks like, let's go attack the real problem now and see how we might approach it differently.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the idea of working that into a dojo exercise. Yeah.
Interesting enough, everybody was following this scenario and enjoying how this scenario would be addressed with a high-performing team. But did we ask ourselves, what would happen if this was not a healthy team and there was no transparency? What a disaster it could end up with. If, for example, Lindy leaves the company and there is nobody to take care of marketing, or if this app was advertised and sold during the Super Bowl, and people will keep it a secret that there is a big defect in the application. I think that this exercise would be a good illustration to really appreciate transparency, to appreciate psychological safety, will help people to value it even more.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. It's a cool idea. Doug, I see your hand up.
Oh, I was just going to add on to what Sasha said. It would have been interesting if one took one perspective and one took a different perspective and presented it.
Like the light side and the dark side?
Yes, it would have been interesting to or maybe it would have been, I don't know. Anyway, that was it.
Ah, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I'll offer that I can imagine using an exercise like this in a retrospective where let the team do the analysis, okay, what would a super high performing team do in this scenario? Boom, 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 boom. And then afterwards, bring it to like, oh, are there practices that our team alpha is doing that we would actually like to try? Mm-hmm. Right? As the outcome of our retrospective, is there a practice or practices in there that, we feel like we might want to adopt those and we would be able to, and, it would make us more like Team Alpha. So that was an application thought I had. So any final thoughts, comments, questions on any of this? Anything that's come up for you in this exercise?
Yeah, I think we've got those of us who are programmers, on this as a programmer, we've got this tendency to start programming and not plan and not think through and not strategize. And the exercise is useful from the standpoint of, if we spent, how long do we spend there? 20 minutes, Chris?
25, but yeah, I gave you a few extra
25.
25 total.
So if we spend 25 minutes actually strategizing, it's like, oh, by the way, you guys own this library now. It sucks. It's full of tech debt. And before you go off and code it, let's do an imaginary. Let's have an imaginary life for the next 25 minutes, and work and let's imagine that we're the team that we want to be, but it's around the planning part, because I think our team had just great suggestions for thinking through the tech debt scenario, and it's the kind of thing. It's like, oh, everybody goes off and does stuff, without having that conversation that brings it all together and brings the thoughtfulness together that I saw on our team.
I like that because it really gives an opportunity to reap the benefits of being a team, right? So often when we jump into doing the work, we're actually back in our little silos. And this gives a chance to like have the whole team together and say, oh, with all the brilliant minds here in the room, if we're being our best selves, how would we approach this? Yeah, I kind of like that.
I think also to riff off again off of Ron, because you're feeding me great ideas. The other side is to, before going into this regular thing, maybe add the question, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Right? And then obviously not do that.
Yeah, I've actually used that exercise a few times at the beginning as an icebreaker or opener before idea generation. I remember one of the Agile Learning Labs, we do these quarterly kind of strategic offsites. And Kathy Simpson, who many of you probably remember, was at Agile Learning Labs for quite some time. She was leading that particular opening. And she opened with, all right, everybody, for the next 10 minutes, you are going to write the worst quarterly plan possible for Agile Learning Labs. And then we're going to hear them all. And it was actually really fun, like to get really absurd and try to go as far off the deep end in the bad, in the bad direction as possible. And it was fun, and we laughed when we shared them. And it actually helped us show like, well, if that's the opposite of what we want, it actually sheds light on what we really do want. So yeah, I like that. I like that. That's cool. Well, everybody, that's what I got. I hope this has been useful and valuable for you. And thank you, Doug. Thank you. And I think there might be some networky type stuff coming up. In that vein, I will offer this. Any of you here who are not already connected with me on LinkedIn, I'd be super happy and comfortable connecting. So there's my LinkedIn link, and definitely encourage other folks, share your LinkedIn link in the chat if you're open to connecting with folks who are here hanging out at the meetup. And I'll turn it back over to